Born to the great conqueror, Jun Xuanxiao, and the mild Shen Yu, Jun QiYu's future can only be auspicious. Jun QiYu strives to be as great as his big father, but when he returns from his exploits, he is forced to marry his childhood friend, LiQing, who was given the title Tanhualang, the most eligible bachelor in among his peers. When he returned from the western regions, he ordered LiQing to not accept the marriage. But when the time came, LiQing changed his mind and double-crossed him. QiYu rebels by mistreating his new crowned princess. Their marriage is off to a rocky start. Would love ever blossom, or would he hate LiQing until the day he dies? After receiving Shen Yu's blessings, Jun Xuanxiao led his army to the north to defeat the Xiongnu. He fought viciously, strategizing shrewdly, bearing down his enemy like the devil himself. It took him half a year, but he came back victorious. Due to the war, he was not there when Jun QiYu was born, but took it upon himself to care for his son upon his victorious return. I never expected that Jun Xuanxiao would ever change a diaper in his life. A banquet is held upon his return. The countries surrounding Dajing came to celebrate his success and to pay him tribute, bringing rare gifts and vast treasures to please him, submitting themselves to his whims, pledging their allegiance to Dajing. While they celebrated the father, they also came to admire his son. They can only conclude that the auspiciousness of Dajing is due to the birth of the mighty emperor's crown prince. The birth of Jun QiYu brought prosperity and luck to the kingdom of Dajing. It's been a year since Jun QiYu's birth. Today is his first birthday. Many treasures varying from pearls, books, and weapons littered a mat on the floor. All this are in preparation of Zhuozhou. It is a tradition that on a child's first birthday, a variety of items will be laid out in front of them. Whatever the baby picks will be a symbol of what their future will be. It's like a fortune-telling activity for babies. Shen Yu crossed his hands in front of him, looking at his husband incredulously. He did prepare a lot of items in preparation for the fortune-telling activity, but does not know how Jun Xuanxiao sneaked in many sharp objects. He scolds his husband for adding weapons that could hurt their baby. Jun Xuanxiao pacifies Shen Yu's worries. There is no way that their QiYu will be hurt, as they will be there to watch him. At his age, QiYu can barely walk, let alone lift up a weapon in his tiny little hands. Should Jun QiYu want to become a fighter, wouldn't it be a shame if weapons are not available for him during Zhuozhou? To prove his point, Jun Xuanxiao turned to the baby, QiYu, babbling to the child to make the baby agree with him. To watch Jun Xuanxiao and Shen Yu's love story. Watch cruel and merciless commander's 9 wives are dead. Now his new wife is a man. In this channel, still carrying his child, Jun Xuanxiao turns to his emperor consort, telling him that they will not spoil QiYu and will make him into a hero. As if agreeing to his father, QiYu babbles to Shen Yu as if he is trying to assuage his little father's worries. Surprised by their son's cute reaction, Shen Yu can only look at him stunned. Jun Xuanxiao smugly tells Shen Yu that even QiYu agrees with him and wants Shen Yu to stop worrying. Miffed at his husband's nonchalant attitude, Shen Yu sets aside his worries. Their child's future is undetermined as he is too young to take on the role of a hero. He tells the mighty emperor that should their child get hurt due to the sharp objects, he will blame the emperor. Guests started to arrive, and the imposing figure of the country's general stepped into the room. It is a small gathering of only close friends. General Songqing and his husband, Hong Lian, are indeed welcome. Surprised by the new addition to their friend's family, Shen Yu turns to the toddler that Hong Lian is carrying. He asks if the toddler is their child, thinking that Hong Lian must have given birth to the child, like Shen Yu did to QiYu. Shen Yu asks how Hong Lian made it happen. Shen Yu, although a man, gave birth to QiYu due to a birthing elixir. It's just magic. Okay. Don't question the power of BL. Hong Lian explains that unlike Shen Yu, he does not have the ability to give birth. He and Songqing adopted the child from Hong Lian's distant relatives. The imperial doctor, Bian Shisi, laughs at Shen Yu for guessing it wrong. He suspected that the shrewd Hong Lian must have stolen the baby. Ignoring the doctor's crude suspicions, Hong Lian introduced the toddler as Song LiQing. It was Songqing who named the child. The child's name must be a combination of Lian and Qing. Hong Lian explains that the child is thin and weak due to the lack of nourishment shortly after he was born. The child's parents died shortly after his birth, leaving the child behind. LiQing is now 3 years old, but he is not bigger than the year-old QiYu. Shen Yu takes pity on the child. Hong Lian hugs the child as he tells Shen Yu that he brought the child so that QiYu's auspiciousness and vitality can rub on the toddler, taking on the role as the child's little father. Hong Lian, cares for the child and vows to raise him as if he is his own. Bian Shixi offered to become the child's godfather and promised to be more polite to Hong Lian. Hong Lian quickly rejected the offer, citing that he'd rather his child eat rice than medicine. The affronted doctor can only raise his voice at Hong Lian. Unbothered by their spouse's conversation, Jun Xuanxiao placed his son on the raised platform, where various objects were laid out while Songqing watched him vigilantly. Songqing calls the attention of the others in the room, announcing that the fortune-telling activity is about to commence. Jun Xuanxiao placed QiYu on the mat, allowing him to choose. Shen Yu tries to encourage their child to pick among the items laid out. He turns to his husband asking if he wanted QiYu to be a scholar or a fighter. Jun Xuanxiao quickly answered that he wanted his son to learn martial arts, so that he could take him to the garrison and practice the art. Shen Yu worries that their child might turn into a brute who only knows how to bully people. Jun Xuanxiao felt a stab in his heart, suspecting Shen Yu was talking about him. Jun QiYu started crawling on the mat, delighted at the many toys in front of him. Shen Yu encourages him to grab whatever he wants. To Jun Xuanxiao's disappointment, and to Shen Yu's delight, QiYu's chubby hand lands on a pile of books. Jun Xuanxiao tried to entice the child to choose another item, leading him to where he wanted the baby to go. Shen Yu scolded his antics, telling him that he shouldn't intervene. QiYu excitedly raised the dragon's seal over his head. Pleased, Jun Xuanxiao remarks that the child must want to quickly replace his own father as emperor of Dajing. Jun Xuanxiao was impressed at his baby's ambition. Shen Yu suspects that QiYu only picked the seal because Jun Xuanxiao usually gives it to the baby as a toy. Leave it to Jun Xuanxiao to let his child play with the dragon seal. The dragon seal is used by the emperor to sign missives and orders. QiYu was an energetic baby that would latch on to almost everything he sees. Shen Yu is worried that their baby is being greedy. Songqing is astounded that a year-old little baby could lift hefty objects made of jade. Bian Shixi compliments QiYu for his sharpness, commenting that the child will be a force to reckon with in the years to come. Hong Lian thinks that if QiYu grows up to be strong and ambitious like Jun Xuanxiao and intelligent like Shen Yu, he will surely become a troublesome child. Shen Yu announces that the fortune-telling activity is over and tells the others that he will call for a servant to take the objects away. Something catches QiYu's attention and quickly crawls towards the object he desires. Across the platform, surrounded by books, sat Song LiQing leafing through the pages of a book. His pores over the book, not aware of the mischievous child coming towards him. With unsteady steps, QiYu barged through the pile of books and fell on LiQing. QiYu excitedly babbles and waves his arms, seemingly trying to talk to LiQing. He grabs the older boy by his sleeves, inviting him to see his treasures. LiQing does not understand what the boy wants and refuses to budge, but the stubborn QiYu cannot be deterred. He grabs the older boy's sleeves until the buttons securing the robe grips. Frustrated, QiYu grabs the older boy and latches on the boy's face. LiQing can only cry at the baby's eagerness. Hong Lian finally took notice of the two toddlers' squabble. He bends down to lift LiQing up, soothing the crying child. QiYu still wants to play with the older boy and would latch on Hong Lian's robe, seemingly ordering him to give LiQing to him. Shen Yu is aware of his child's stubbornness. He quickly grabbed the child and smacked him on his bottom. QiYu does not seem to care that Shen Yu is disciplining him, and would continue to reach out his hand to LiQing in a grabbing motion. Jun Xuanxiao tells Shen Yu that he should not fret too much as children tend to fight all the time. As QiYu is only a year old, he does not know how to treat others kindly. Songqing agrees as their child LiQing has never been with other children, and it would be good for him to meet a friend his age. QiYu agrees, still reaching out to LiQing. Jun Xuanxiao approves of the children's closeness, and even gives his blessing that should they be fated to meet again in the future, the two children should stay together. LiQing shyly looks at the other toddler, only to be met with a bright smile. This seemingly innocent meeting marks his future with this boy, the crown prince of Dajing. The capital of Dajing is more crowded than usual. With the street heavily decorated, the crowd excitedly anticipates the Sanding Jia Street Parade. Today, the top 3 scholars who pass the imperial exam shall be paraded in front of the citizens. The crowd congratulates the winners, commenting how each of the winners are happy and are proud of themselves. The crowd can only be astounded in their talents, but the one that everyone anticipates the most is not the first nor the second. This year's third placer is said to be a rare beauty, a rare combination of beauty, talent, and intelligence. Truly a gem amongst millions. The crowd can only look on in awe as the third placer, or Tanhualang. Before idols were created, the Tanhualang was the most sought-after boy in Chinese history. After passing a series of rigorous imperial examinations, the emperor would pick amongst the final three. The one picked is normally the most good-looking and is given the title Tanhualang. Finally emerges from view. A man with delicate features rides a horse. A red sash adorns his robe. This man is Song LiQing. Years have passed since his first meeting with the crown prince, Jun QiYu. Everyone looks up to him, knowing that his future has no limits. A person from the crowd whispers to the person beside him that the Tanhualang is often married to a noble princess. It's a pity that their country does not have a princess. However, the current emperor became the first to marry a man, so it won't be too far-fetched should the crown marry off the crown prince to Tanhualang. The other bystander shushes him from talking ill of the royal family. The other gossiper pushes on. It is rumored that the Tanhualang has a little father that runs the famous Qin Lian restaurant, which was once a brothel. The infamous madam of the Qin Lian pavilion is LiQing's little father. He is an orphan taken in by the Song family, and no one knows where he came from. The other gossiper scolds the other from talking too much and announces that a guard is coming to chastise them. The two can only bow in shame. LiQing can hear them clearly. He kept a stoic face as he passes through them. In the past 10 years, he worked so hard in order to pass the imperial examination and make his parents proud. He is also proud of himself for not causing them shame. He's a very filial child. He's the kind of kid that Asian parents would compare their child to. This is not the first time he's heard of such gossip. He's got used to it over the years. He remembers how the other children would tauntingly call him Master Rabbit. His origin as an orphan and the occupation of his little father has always been the subject of teasing among his affluent classmates. Kids are mean. They would constantly bully and harass him, taunting him to drop out of school. He would quietly take the bullying until one day someone came to his rescue. The brash QiYu, who was 2 years younger than him, would stake his claim on him and beat up their classmates. But he did not do it out of a noble reason. He simply does not like the idea of others bullying what belongs to him, claiming that he is the only one allowed to bully Song LiQing. He would announce that LiQing is his. After beating up their classmate, QiYu once asked LiQing to raise his hand. QiYu would then stamp his signature on LiQing's hands, staking his claim. Kid's the kind to put his name on everything he owns. Rather than worry about these rumors, LiQing only cares about the people who deserve his kindness. That's a good mindset. Let them gossip. Tassels and amulets are thrown at him, which Song LiQing would graciously accept. To the crowd's delight, he would bow to them in thanks, calling his name like they would an idol. LiQing's musings would divert to his father, who is fighting in the Northwest Army. He remembers that they will be returning soon. His father will be coming back with his savior, also known as the Little Devil, Jun QiYu. A commotion from the back draws his attention. A soldier is ordering everyone to make way. An attendant even came to usher his horse to step out of the way. The crown prince of Dajing finally returns. LiQing rejoices at the news. It would mean that 2 of the 3 men he cares for the most are finally home safe. He smiles as the crowd announces the arrival of General Song and Crown Prince, Jun QiYu. The crowd has another topic to entertain them. This time, it is the greatness of the crown prince who went to the western regions to protect their country from barbarians. The crowd praises the crown prince as they are lucky that not only is he wise, he is also gifted in martial arts and the one that brings them prosperity. LiQing watches the procession with pride. He is proud of QiYu for the name he made for himself. When QiYu left the academy to fight on the border, they no longer kept in touch. He has not seen the crown prince in a decade. With the brashness and smugness only born to someone of QiYu's birth, he swaggered into the streets without a care in the world. LiQing remarks that the boy who once saved him from the bullies remains the same. He shines so brightly like the sun. LiQing notices that QiYu is not alone on his horse. A frail figure with golden hair hides under a hooded robe. QiYu recognizes the person's origin to be from the western regions. The person can only be a slave, and LiQing can't bear to look. His musing was interrupted by a brash voice asking if he is this year's Tanhualang. The voice is none other than Jun QiYu, whose horse approached him. Before Song LiQing could introduce himself, the brash QiYu interrupts him, saying that he knows who he is. Happy at being recognized, LiQing blushes, his face like a flower opening up to the sun. But QiYu's expression is cold. It is not the expression of someone who's happy to see their childhood friend. QiYu's head is in turmoil, annoyed at being summoned so hastily by his emperor father. The reason for the summon is to meet this person. this Tanhualang. QiYu wipes the smile off LiQing's face by asking him to take off his robe. Like a bully that he is, he tells LiQing that he likes the robe and that LiQing should just hand it over. Scared and confused, LiQing can only look at him in bafflement. Let's hope he's joking. Everyone is shocked to hear QiYu demand that the Tanhualang removes his robes. LiQing suspects that QiYu's temper has not improved. Staying at the western regions did not help him become a better person. He can only sigh, knowing that QiYu is once again acting like a brat. Hoping to get QiYu to calm down, LiQing tells QiYu to act respectfully in front of the crowd. QiYu does not care. Being crown prince, there is nothing that anyone can deny him. But it's Mount LiQing robes that QiYu wants. He is annoyed at LiQing himself. The slave riding with QiYu grabs him by the front of his robes, whispering mischievously to QiYu. The slave's name is Hu Newer. QiYu turns to LiQing smugly and tells him that Hu Newer wants LiQing red flowers and demands that LiQing hand it over to the slave to play with. The lack of respect is astounding. The slave reveals his beautiful face under the hood, his neck chained like an animal. LiQing can only look at him speechless. The red flower is a gift from the emperor bestowed upon him for his hard work. It is not a toy. Trying to appease the prince, LiQing tries to tell him that he needs it on him when he enters the palace. This answer annoys the prince, who used his sword to snatch the red ribbon off LiQing's robes. LiQing quickly grabs the other end. He asks QiYu to return the ribbon. When entering the imperial palace, the Tanhualang must wear the ribbon out of respect to the emperor who bestowed the reward. He asks QiYu to let him have it for now and promises to give it to him after the ceremony. The crown prince insists that LiQing should be honored that he is giving Hu Newer a gift and demands that LiQing let go of the sash. General Song finally decided to break their argument. He scolds the crown prince for bullying LiQing. Nothing is gained from the crown prince acting like a brute in front of his people. It is the royal family that is being embarrassed. Annoyed at being scolded, QiYu tells Hu Newer to get off the horse. His looks promising revenge on LiQing. He clamped his legs, and the horse started galloping at breakneck speed. With LiQing holding the other end of the sash, he is dragged along. QiYu shouts back at him that he shall enter the palace with LiQing. LiQing can only think of the story his fathers told him. When QiYu was a year old, he grabbed LiQing, unwilling to let go. Their fates must have been tied from that very day. Although the little devil tried to embarrass him and dragged him around town like a pet, LiQing's affection for the prince has not lessened one bit. His affection would only grow stronger. As they neared the imperial court, LiQing can't help but wonder where the crown prince's hostility is coming from. QiYu's horse finally came to a halt. He orders the stable attendants to bring his horse only the freshest food and for them to take good care of his horse. LiQing notices how QiYu cherishes his slave and horse. A towering figure looms above him. QiYu steps closer only to menacingly tell him that he has no intention of pleasing LiQing. He tells LiQing to refuse the marriage that his emperor father would offer him. Surprised, LiQing steps back, dumbly repeating what QiYu said. Unconvinced that he does not know, QiYu voices his accusation that LiQing must have convinced his emperor father to set up the marriage with QiYu. He taunts LiQing for his shamelessness in getting the emperor to marry him to the crown prince, but is in fact not brave enough to admit it. LiQing can only look at him slack-jawed, unable to believe that this is happening. QiYu looms over LiQing. When the older man did not say anything, he could only make his own conclusions. Ambitious LiQing must have gotten into his head that just because they were childhood friends, he could get QiYu to agree to his machinations. QiYu refused to be a part of it. LiQing is saddened to hear that QiYu does not see their friendship as precious. The one previous childhood memory of LiQing is nothing to the prince. LiQing tells QiYu that he is unaware of the emperor's plan to marry them off. QiYu tells him that if he really does not know about the plan, then he must decline the offer, or else. Clenching his fist, LiQing asks QiYu if marrying him is something that he found so disgusting that it is the first thing he asks as soon as he returns. Turning his back on LiQing, QiYu admits his disgust. What he hates the most are conniving individuals who use marriage to gain status. With these parting words, QiYu leaves, ordering LiQing to do as he asks. LiQing sadly watches him leave, disappointed that QiYu sees him as an unscrupulous person. He did not expect things to turn out this way. In the Hall of Supreme Harmony, General Song and Crown Prince QiYu spent 2 hours reporting all that transpired in the borders. The emperor is happy with the report. When it is time to reward the general, the atmosphere changed. With 2 fingers pointed at his temple, the emperor commends Song Qing for his loyalty. hoping that the man would continue to take on the position of general to protect the country. Songqing expressed his desire to lay down the sword and spend the rest of his days with his family and take on the hobby of growing vegetables. LiQing is excited to finally spend more time with his father. Emperor Shuwen reasons that although they are living a peaceful time, there is no harm to be cautious. He also compliments Songqing's son, LiQing. He fondly calls LiQing Liner, who aced the imperial exams, and calls for his presence. LiQing steps forward and bows to the emperor. The emperor ordered him to stand up and expressed his liking of LiQing. He claims that he is envious of Songqing for having a smart son. Unlike him, he only got a son who only knows martial arts. Isn't that what you wanted? LiQing waved off this compliment, citing that the crown prince's gift is a blessing from heavens and that his skills are nothing compared to the crown prince's. Emperor Xuan laments at his own child's neglectfulness. He reminisces about the time when QiYu and LiQing were close. Now that the two are of marriageable age, it would be nice if the two marry and tie the Song family to the emperor's. Should LiQing agree, he can serve as the prince's attendant. Should he decline, he can be given a position in the council. LiQing shall serve the emperor as a literary council, while his father can continue to serve as general of the army. Jun Xuanxiao is being crafty with his words. He's basically saying that if LiQing refuses, he would send Songqing back to the garrison. LiQing can see through the emperor's plans. As QiYu has been neglecting his studies, he wanted LiQing to assist QiYu with his studies. Using casual words, the emperor showed QiYu what would become of his father should he refuse. The emperor smiles down on him, knowing that LiQing won't deny him what he wants. LiQing fears that the emperor would make his father guard the border until he dies. The role of the prince's attendant is a tedious position with no chance of promotion. Should LiQing accept the offer, he will sacrifice his hard-earned position to allow his father to retire in his old age surrounded by family. But this answer will be against what QiYu wanted. Faced by two bullies, either choice will cause LiQing to suffer. In court, marriage is a transaction, something that QiYu, with a carefree nature, looks down on. As a filial child, LiQing knows the choice to make. He bowed down graciously to the emperor, accepting the gift of marriage. The emperor looks at him with a pleased expression, while QiYu glares daggers at him in obvious disgust. Now that their family is about to be joined by matrimony, Emperor Shuwen grants the title of first-class duke to Songqing. His position as duke and general can only be replaced through family relations. They shall rule dodging hand in hand. Songqing's family shall prosper and fall alongside the emperor's. The emperor announces that he shall prepare a betrothal gift to Songqing's family. QiYu shows this time to interrupt, voicing his refusal. The emperor looks at his son, coldly asking him the reason for his objection. Emperor Suman looks at his son imperiously, challenging him if he can differentiate between right and wrong. Praising LiQing's sensibleness, he points out that LiQing would be the better half in their marriage while QiYu is the inadequate one. QiYu argues that if they are not matched, then the emperor should not impose this marriage on LiQing. He asks his emperor father to allow LiQing to decline the offer and find someone better suited. The emperor, much like his son, is stubborn. He pointed out that he once hoped that sending QiYu away to the borders would quell his arrogance, but nothing has changed. The subject of marriage is the parent's decision. As emperor of this kingdom, there is no one who can challenge his decision. QiYu finally agreed to the marriage, but he shall set two conditions. If these conditions are met, then he shall not say anything more on the matter. The first condition is that he want a mansion of his own, where he can live outside of the emperor's influence. The emperor immediately granted this request. The second condition is that he can choose his legal wife. Song LiQing shall only hold the position of a second wife. The courtiers and spectators in the court gossip amongst themselves. The crown prince blatantly asked to make the Tanhualang a concubine. The prince brought with him a slave from the west. They suspect that the prince plans to make the slave his wife. LiQing could only bear the humiliation silently. The emperor, in his anger, throws a scroll to his son's face. QiYu staggered in his steps, but held his ground. He wants it known that his wife can only be the one he values the most. When he is forced, even if his father gifts him a fairy or a goddess, he shall not give the marriage value. I actually agree with him. But remember, this is ancient times, so things are different then. Turning his anger on LiQing, QiYu lifts LiQing by the arm, demanding that if he really loves QiYu, he should not care about status. Someone who loves him would willingly accept being concubine, as long as he could be with QiYu. LiQing looks down, obscuring his face with his hair. QiYu can see the fat tears falling down Tanhualang's face. For a moment, QiYu's expression softened. Clad in red wedding robes, LiQing follows his maid to where the crown prince is. The sound of merriment and laughter can be heard from inside. LiQing turns to the maid accompanying him and asks if the crown prince ordered her to stop LiQing from finding out where he is. The maid bowed respectfully to him, admitting that the crown prince does not care whether he comes or not. It is her own decision to not let LiQing see the unsightly scene and be sad. Touched at the maid's care, LiQing asked for her name. She introduced herself as Xiao Di. He thanked her sincerely and told her to keep watch while he comes in. He does not want others to know the crown prince's foolishness. Xiao Di readily agrees. LiQing cares for QiYu's reputation and does not want QiYu's reign to be met with disapproval due to his childishness. Inside, Hu Nuer dances exotically in front of the prince. The merriment stop at LiQing's presence. Noticing his arrival, Hu Nuer announces the presence of the crown princess. LiQing walks past the dancer towards QiYu, who similarly dons a red wedding robe. He did not expect LiQing to come to this place on his own. Treating him like an object of his entertainment, he invites LiQing to change his clothes and dance for him. Hu Nuer even brought out the clothes for LiQing to try on. LiQing refused, not wanting to cave to QiYu's taunts. Not listening to LiQing's refusal, QiYu insisted that Hu Nuer should teach LiQing how to dance. This guy is a bigger pain in the back than his dad. Hu Nuer gleefully stepped forward to LiQing, intent on teaching him. LiQing stood his ground. He will not be bullied by QiYu. He calmly told the prince that as a gift bestowed by the emperor and appointed as the prince's companion, he shall not partake in the salacious act of dancing. Hu Nuer laughed as if what he said was audacious. He sidled up to QiYu seductively, coyly asking him what position it is that LiQing holds. Belittling LiQing's position, QiYu revealed that LiQing shall serve him as 7th rank official. His position is that of a study companion. Hu Nuer bragged that his position is far more important as he is by QiYu's side at all times. He even commented that he had thought that LiQing has achieved 1st rank, taunting him. He moved closer to LiQing, rubbing in his face that he won't be able to attend the morning court. This basically means that LiQing's position is not important enough to garner power or share his ideas at court. Hu Nuer taunted LiQing, pretending to kindly teach him how to entertain the crown prince. LiQing quickly moved away from Hu Nuer, as if burned. QiYu watched their interactions silently seething. He wanted LiQing to leave immediately. LiQing turned to Hu Nuer and frankly told him that he would never stoop so low as to learn a skill that entertains others in such a way. LiQing faced QiYu, urging him to go with him to their chambers as it is their wedding night. He wanted to coax QiYu to come with him and have a pleasant first night as a married couple. QiYu's mind is reeling with anger. He is aware that LiQing is not fond of it and thinks that his childhood friend must be so happy to finally have him under his thumb. He thinks that if LiQing would force him to accept this fate, he should not be so picky and should not make any demands from him. He looks at LiQing full of disgust, angry at the crown princess for masterminding such a scheme. He suspects that LiQing wants the prestige of being part of the royal family and is only pretending to be polite. He will never submit to LiQing's control. He grits his teeth. LiQing wonders if words got through to QiYu. He tries to ask him again, but to his shock, the crown prince pushes him to the ground. His vision reeled like whiplash as he finds himself falling to the floor, the crown prince looming over him with a look of triumph. Stunned, he asks QiYu what he is doing as his back connects to the ground. QiYu grabbed his wrist, taunting LiQing for eagerly wanting to get QiYu to come to their wedding chambers. QiYu caressed LiQing's throat, saying that if he is too eager, then they should do it here on the floor, in front of the servants. This guy's a complete grr. QiYu challenges LiQing to perform. He taunts that LiQing must have learned some useful things. QiYu just wants LiQing to back down and leave him in peace by embarrassing him. But LiQing is undeterred. He tells QiYu to stop the way he's acting as there are people watching. As if used to his bullying, LiQing looks at him, unafraid, scolding him for acting absurdly. With his wrists pinned above him, LiQing reasons that should the emperor and queen hear of this, QiYu would surely get punished, thinking that LiQing was threatening him. QiYu grabbed LiQing by his jaw, covering his mouth. He leans down, telling LiQing to not use his parents to control him. The servants of Qilin Mansion belong to him. So even if LiQing tattles to the emperor and queen, the servants will not support his claim. QiYu wanted to humiliate LiQing. Reaching down, he grabbed LiQing's robes, raising the clothes up to show more of LiQing's skin. Scared, LiQing told him to stop. He tells QiYu that he checks his behavior to drunkenness. When QiYu loosened his grip, LiQing turned on his side, cowering in a fetus position, closing his eyes. QiYu's hand caught on a tassel attached to LiQing's belt. LiQing opens one eye to see what QiYu is talking about. Opening both eyes, LiQing reminds him that it was QiYu who gave him the charm. He's been wearing it since he was young. QiYu remembers that the charm is a gift that he carelessly gave LiQing and did not expect that the other would hold on to it for years. The charm only cost him a penny, and one that he got from the streets. He mocks LiQing for keeping something too shabby. LiQing is saddened to hear this. He kept the charm for years as it was QiYu who gave it to him. Annoyed at LiQing's expression, QiYu grabbed LiQing by the neck and proceeded to drag him towards the door. On the way out, the charm that LiQing kept safe for years falls to the floor, pushing LiQing out of the mansion. QiYu tells him not to spoil his fun with his presence. LiQing stumbles as he was pushed out, the maid Xiaodi catching him so that her dear crown princess does not fall to the ground. Fretting over him, she asks what happened, addressing LiQing as Your Highness. LiQing tells her not to address him so formally, to which Xiaodi tells him that she cannot agree to his request as LiQing was crowned as princess, a title bestowed by the emperor himself. Besides, he is also the revered Tanhualang, and thus deserves the respect. She agrees to compromise that she will call them crown princess when there are others around, and Mr. Tanhualang when it is only the two of them. LiQing thanked her for giving him comfort. Unable to help herself, she asks LiQing why he came to the prince's door. LiQing faced the closed doors and shouted to QiYu that he shall wait for him outside until he comes out. I don't think that's a good idea. LiQing's words were met by rejection. QiYu shouts back that he should leave, not even bothering to open the door. Resolute, LiQing tells him that he does not care for whatever QiYu calls him, but he wants QiYu to respect his position as crown prince. His reputation should not be tarnished. Angered that LiQing is once again blackmailing him, QiYu opens the door to tell LiQing that if he kowtows 1,000 times, he shall go with him. LiQing stares at him silently, then slowly kneels in front of him to do exactly what he said. The sky drizzled until it rained vigorously down on LiQing, as if crying of the humiliation that the crown princess will endure. Xiaodi begs him not do it, while QiYu stands dumbly, not expecting that LiQing would do what he told him to. He only wanted LiQing to leave him alone, but he hardened his heart as he does not want to make it easier for LiQing to control him in the future. Xiaodi begs LiQing to not let the crown prince trample on his pride. How will the servants respect him? Should anyone spread the rumor of the crown princess kowtowing to gain his husband's affection? It would be too shameful. LiQing lets out a sigh as being shamed is a small price to pay. He looks at QiYu and asks him to keep his promise. QiYu is offended that LiQing would challenge his words. He is disgusted by LiQing's proud demeanor. Accepting that this is the only way, LiQing bends his back for the first bow. QiYu does not expect him to complete 1,000 kowtows and thinks that this is all for show. He tells LiQing that he hates being coerced and threatened the most. With these final words, he enters the mansion and closes the doors shut. LiQing continued to kowtow. He kowtowed so many times that he lost count and does not know how long he's been outside. As rain pours down on him, his vision blurs that he fears that an eye disease he used to have has relapsed. He's kowtowed too many times, yet QiYu still has not come out. Xiaodi kneels beside him, offering him a handkerchief to wipe the blood on his forehead. LiQing tells her to save her tears as he is not hurting. He calls out to QiYu, telling him that he kowtowed 1,000 times and that he must keep his word. LiQing coughs. Being out in the rain for the whole night does not do the body any good. Xiaodi cries, offering to go inside to fetch the crown prince to beg him to come out. QiYu hears them from behind the doors, finally opening it to find LiQing kneeling on the ground, his head bleeding from all the kowtowing he did. He lifts the weakened LiQing off the ground and carries him back to their chambers. But this gesture is not born from pity. QiYu is seething. LiQing must have a death wish. The bridal chamber is lavishly decorated with bright lanterns and red paper amulets, wishing happiness to the newlywed couple. QiYu throws LiQing to the bed, taunting LiQing for growing a backbone. He decided to give him what he wanted. He shall fulfill his duty as a husband. He throws off his outer robes to the ground and roughly pushes LiQing to the bed. Straddling him, he latches to LiQing's slender neck. Thinking that QiYu is probably drunk, LiQing begs him to stop. QiYu stops for a moment, goading LiQing for backing down after begging him to come. But this is not what LiQing wanted. He wanted to ask if QiYu came back to finally accept him as a bride, or if came back to take his revenge on him. I think the answer would be obvious. With his silence, QiYu threatens to leave. If LiQing does not want to spend the night with him, there will be others who would be willing. LiQing begs him not to go. Still drenched from the rain, and his body weak. He tells QiYu that he is willing. QiYu grabs the back of his neck, his other hand pushing him down to the bed. His breath teases LiQing ears as he whispers forebodingly that this is what LiQing wanted. Thus, the couple spend the night, consummating their marriage. When morning came, LiQing woke up. His body hurts all over. As he sits up, all he can feel is pain. His forehead bears the evidence of him kowtowing 1,000 times, his body littered with marks. Rough night. Besides him, QiYu sleeps peacefully, an arm slung around him. LiQing draws his robes close, covering the bruises. QiYu was rough with him that night. QiYu sleeps face down on the bed. His peaceful face does not reveal how cruel he could be. LiQing reaches out to play with his hair for some time, wishing that QiYu would show him the same gentleness when he wakes. He wishes that QiYu would stop hating him. If only he could treat him like he used to when they were young. He carefully covers QiYu with a blanket and sits on the bed miserably. Will QiYu ever accept him? LiQing thought strays to his aging father. He must endure in order for his father to live a peaceful life. With the help of Xiao Di, LiQing covers his bruises and marks with makeup. Xiao Di carefully dips her finger in the bowl of cream and applies it on LiQing's most prominent marks. Etiquette dictates that he must visit the palace and pay his respect to the emperor and queen. Therefore, he must clean up nicely. Xiao Di offered to bring him some ointments, angry that the crown prince would beat up the Tanhualang so cruelly. LiQing blushed to the roots of his hair, unable to tell the girl what he and the crown prince actually did that night. They just wrestled the whole night. A very innocent and maiden-friendly activity. He tells Xiao Di to not worry, ready to leave. LiQing pushes himself off the desk to stand up. When he checked his belt, he noticed that his favorite charm was gone. In a state of panic, LiQing combs through his belongings looking for the charm, even asking Xiao Di if she's seen it. Xiao Di tells him that she cleaned up but did not see the tassel. Worried that he must have dropped the tassel on the way home last night, LiQing ran out to retrace his steps. His steps took him back to Qilin Mansion. It is possible that he dropped the tassel inside the room last night during the skirmish with QiYu. He politely entered the room and found Hu Nuer seated on the table, seemingly waiting for him. Lounging by the table, the slave teases that he does not feel the need to greet the honorable crown princess properly due to his lack of sleep. He pardoned his behavior and reasoned that as he is not a Han Chinese, it is understandable that he does not know the etiquette. LiQing politely asks for his name. Hu Nuer notes that LiQing was the first to ask his name since he was captured. But his name does not matter as he will answer to whatever the crown prince calls him. LiQing asks if Hu Nuer found the tassels and described it to Hu Nuer, to which the other answered that he had indeed seen it. LiQing politely asked to have it returned to him, but the other petulantly denied his request. LiQing pales, not understanding why the other would choose not to return his stuff. Hu Nuer remarks that the tassels belong to him now. Realizing how much the tassels mean to LiQing, Hu Nuer bullies him some more. The tassel must be a token of love from QiYu, which LiQing denies. LiQing knows that QiYu does not mean anything when he gives LiQing the gift. Hu Nuer observes him. Standing up, Hu Nuer rounded the desk and walked closer to LiQing, dangling the tassel in front of the crown princess. LiQing tries to grab it, but the slave is far too fast. Using the tassel for leverage, he tells LiQing that he can have it back, but he must first do something for him. Hu Nuer tells LiQing that he wants a few nights with the prince. Blushing at the scandalous proposal, LiQing steps back. Hu Nuer teases him for being stingy. Hu Nuer tells LiQing that he can't live without QiYu. The thought of sharing his husband with others is far too scandalous for LiQing. Hu Nuer points out that LiQing may be the Tanhualang and the son of General Song who destroyed the Western Plains, but Hu Nuer is the son of a king. His upbringing is far more noble than LiQing. But he has to play the role of a slave. He can't help but blackmail LiQing. He reasons that right or wrong does not matter. What matters is their position in life. So Hu Nuer is the prince of a conquered country. I feel so bad for him. LiQing tells him that he does not see people based on their class. Anyone could be good or bad, regardless of status. Hu Nuer changed course and tells LiQing that Central Plains people would have many wives and concubines. There is no guarantee that the prince would not marry to secure his lineage. Teasing LiQing as the new addition to QiYu's harem, he tells LiQing that he is the one who taught QiYu everything he knows in bed. Hu Nuer reaches out to LiQing's neck, trying to intimidate him. LiQing deflects the hand reaching for his neck. He shivers and kneels down. Hu Nuer tells him to not take it to heart, especially when it comes to the prince. Even sons of noble regular families form their own harems when they reach a certain age. LiQing tells him that he would not believe Hu Nuer. He never had the habit of listening to gossips, and would not judge a person by what others are saying about them. This must stem from the rumors surrounding him due to his little father, Han Lian. Han Lian was once a prostitute, which made it hard for LiQing to make friends when he was young. Surprised, Hu Nuer decided to let it go, teasing LiQing that he would use the tassel to play with the cat. The cat has a habit of destroying everything it plays with and is glad that he found a replacement. LiQing demands that Hu Nuer return the tassel to him. As Hu Nuer studies LiQing, he hears 3 bells ringing. It could only mean that QiYu is nearby. He slaps himself on the right cheek and throws himself down on the floor, begging for mercy. Hu Nuer makes it seem that LiQing is sending him away. Surprised by the turn of events, LiQing asks what's going on. From behind him, QiYu's baritone voice is heard. He wonders where LiQing disappeared to and is surprised that he ended up in Hu Nuer's room. QiYu coldly observes the scene before him, a slave begging for mercy, and the legal wife straying where he's not supposed to be. The situation does not look good for LiQing, and he knows it. QiYu walks past him to ask Hu Nuer about his cheek. Crying crocodile tears, Hu Nuer explains that he only wanted to see QiYu more, but the crown princess heard him. Pretending to be kind, he tells the prince to not blame LiQing as he has the right to act the way he did as legal wife. LiQing is surprised at the sudden accusation. He calls QiYu's name but is silenced by his cool demeanor. LiQing raised his right hand instinctively to protect himself, and QiYu wasted no moment to grab his wrist to intimidate him, but a sudden thought occurred to him, and he contemplated silently. LiQing notices how quiet QiYu has gotten, afraid that the other would humiliate him again. Arriving at a conclusion, QiYu calls Hu Nuer by the name. Thinking that he won this round, Hu Nuer pretends to be the gracious one and does not want the crown princess to be punished. So sickening. QiYu's next action surprised Hu Nuer. A hand grabs him by the neck, choking him. QiYu promises to bring the real culprit to justice. Sweating profusely, Hu Nuer can only choke on his words. QiYu pointed out that LiQing can't have slapped Hu Nuer as he is right-handed. If it were him, there's no way that he would hit Hu Nuer on the right cheek. Finally, there's evidence that he's not easy to manipulate. Hu Nuer realizes that QiYu walked over to LiQing to confirm which is his dominant hand. At the sight of an angry QiYu, Hu Nuer quickly caves and admits that he must have made a mistake. QiYu throws him on the ground. Putting Hu Nuer in his place, he chastises the slave for acting cocky just because QiYu spends time with him for a few days. QiYu angrily warns the slave to never play tricks again. The cowed Hu Nuer answers promptly. With QiYu protecting him, LiQing felt dizzy. His affection for QiYu grows as he remembers how QiYu used to protect him like this when they were just children. Hu Nuer had implied earlier that his relationship with QiYu dates back to his time in the Western Plains, but QiYu let it slip that he kept Hu under for only a few days. LiQing is relieved that Hu Nuer lied. QiYu turned to LiQing to ask what he was doing in Hu Nuer's room this early. LiQing quickly explained that he dropped the tassel in Hu Nuer's room the night before and came to retrieve it. QiYu is surprised that LiQing would value such a cheap trinket. With 2 hands, Hu Nuer quickly offered the tassel. He explains that he found it that morning and is about to return it. Holding the tassel, QiYu encouraged him to tell him more. Hu Nuer accused LiQing of coming to his room to reprimand him. Acting convincingly like a slave who was bullied, he tells QiYu that LiQing ordered him to leave Qilin Mansion and return to the western regions. He laments that LiQing called him unworthy to even be at QiYu's presence. Before LiQing could defend himself, QiYu turned to him in rage and threw the tassel on him. You believe that liar? He just lied earlier about LiQing slapping him. What made you think he'd tell the truth this time? Angry that LiQing would prance around as if he is the master of Qilin Mansion, he made it known to him that the time they spent last night meant nothing. There is no way that someone as fake as LiQing would be the master of his house. LiQing's heart sank at hearing this. He ordered LiQing not to go and pay his respect to the emperor. QiYu has no plans of letting him join the morning greeting. LiQing let out a sigh, putting the tassel back to its rightful place, lamenting that QiYu may never listen to him. QiYu stands in front of his parents, telling them that he arrived first to report to his father. He intends to tell them what he's heard and seen at the border. The Empress interrupts him, pointing out that QiYu has not said a word to his father. The Emperor, Jun Xuanxiao, rightfully guesses that QiYu is still mad at him. He asked if QiYu understands why he chose LiQing as his husband. QiYu answers that the marriage is political and that the Emperor used this marriage as leverage. The Emperor is satisfied with his answer. QiYu points out that his father used to be very decisive and powerful in his younger years. From a mere vassal, he conquered the Jing dynasty, and even killed many people to become emperor. Qi, you cannot comprehend why his father is afraid of his own achievements when he turns old. He asks if this is the emperor's way of keeping his vassal in line. Emperor Jun Xuanxiao slaps his hand on the chair, calling his son a brat. Empress Yu holds his hand to calm him. The seething emperor is effectively cowed while the empress drank his tea. Jun Xuanxiao explains to his son that conquering an empire and governing it requires two different skills. Conquering requires marching and brute force. On the contrary, governing it as an emperor requires sophistication and special skills. He cites his son's immaturity for not understanding the difference. One day, Qi, you will have to take his place, so he must learn. QiYu agrees. He points out that he understands this very well as he is the one who is being sacrificed. The emperor asks what it was he sacrificed. QiYu answers that by marrying LiQing, he sacrifices his happiness and freedom. He asks QiYu if he can really differentiate between good and bad. LiQing tolerates it when QiYu embarrasses him, which shows that LiQing has a broader understanding than QiYu. The emperor tells him to learn from LiQing, who is virtuous, and is the only one suitable to stand besides QiYu. Jun QiYu is about to answer, but decides against it. Jun Xuanxiao tells him that now that he is married to LiQing, he must treat him well. He tells him to not wait for people's hearts to turn cold as he may regret it. QiYu clearly did not take this seriously and pretended to thank his father for his teachings. This stuns his parents. Empress Yu is the first to recover, breaking the tension. He giggles as he explains that the emperor is imparting wisdom from his own experience. Jun Xuanxiao was quick to agree. QiYu interrupted his parents, saying that if LiQing decides that he no longer wants to be princess, then he should not be the one to blame. The emperor understands what he plans to do, and he slammed his fist, yet again, on the chair. QiYu left his parents with a curt farewell. Shen Yu is upset by how his son acted. He tells Jun Xuanxiao that if QiYu grew up with them, instead of spending his time in the borders, he would have disciplined his son more. Turning to his husband, Empress Yu worries that QiYu might break LiQing's heart. At the Qilin mansion, Xiaodi helps LiQing with the wound on his forehead. She empathizes with her master, lamenting that the crown prince should not treat LiQing this way. She encourages LiQing to go to the emperor and queen and have them punish QiYu. LiQing told her not to be bothered. He worries what they may think of him. Besides, the emperor and empress are QiYu's parents, and they will naturally take the crown prince's side. QiYu angrily enters the room, and LiQing quickly stood up to greet him. Surprised that Qi returned rather quickly, LiQing did not expect QiYu to lay his hand on him and roughly pushes him down. Xiaodi is quick to catch her master from behind. QiYu coldly ordered Xiaodi to leave the room. Xiaodi dreads this order. She fears what will happen to her master when she leaves but has no choice but to follow the crown prince's orders. QiYu sat down and made himself comfortable at his desk, about to make conversation. LiQing opened his lips to ask QiYu how his day went. QiYu interrupted him, telling him cuttingly that he wished he never knew Song LiQing. If he never met LiQing when they were younger, his parents would have not paired them together. LiQing places his hand on his heart because QiYu's words hurts him deeply. Standing up and purposely striding towards LiQing, QiYu towered over him, stating that if it were not for LiQing, he wouldn't have to endure his father reprimanding him daily. LiQing tried to reason with him, asking him to calm down. QiYu tells him that he will talk to LiQing calmly if he finds a way for him to reconcile with his emperor father. He expresses his hatred of being controlled by others. LiQing asks him if being controlled by others is the thing he hates most or if it was LiQing's presence that he can't tolerate. He points out that QiYu has been using LiQing to vent his anger at the emperor for controlling him. Annoyed at being told off, QiYu tells LiQing to stop pretending to be this intelligent sage who had him figured out. When he was young, he was forced to read literated books by his father. He likens LiQing to these books, forced on him, full of tricks, and boring. He got tired of looking at those books. He's basically saying that he's sick of looking at LiQing. LiQing lets out a sigh. He challenges QiYu that if he hates him too much, then he should hand LiQing a divorce letter. The silence that follows is so thick that you can cut with a knife. QiYu angrily tells LiQing that the emperor will never agree. He drew closer to LiQing and grabbed his neck with one hand. QiYu angrily tells LiQing that the only way for the emperor to agree is if the divorce is requested by LiQing. LiQing tells him that he won't do it. He can't let his father go back to the borders. The only way for LiQing's father to not be implicated is if QiYu initiated the divorce. In his anger, QiYu smirks and decides that if this is how LiQing plays, then he will teach him a lesson. If LiQing wanted to be crowned princess so much, then he should give it to him. QiYu proceeds to grab LiQing by the waist and lifts him up to his shoulder like a barbarian. The action surprises LiQing and he frantically asks QiYu what he plans to do. QiYu tells him that since LiQing received the honor of being crowned princess, then he must take on the crown princess's duties. He throws LiQing on the bed, grabs him by the shoulders and pulls at his clothes. This alarms LiQing and he tries to stop him. After how rough QiYu was with him last night, he can't bear to receive him now. QiYu leans down on him, making it clear that it is not up to LiQing to consent. He pins LiQing's wrist above him to LiQing's horror. LiQing can only tremble in fear and pain. For the next 3 days, LiQing had to endure QiYu's assaults whenever the prince returned to Shilin Mansion. QiYu is unrelentless and would exhaust LiQing fully before stopping. Although tired and sick, LiQing would take care of QiYu's attire in the mornings and help him prepare for court. QiYu can't fault him for taking the responsibilities of the crown princess seriously. Every day, LiQing would go to the palace gate to make sure that a surly QiYu would attend court. In one of these mornings, LiQing stood sadly in front of the palace looking at the gates, contemplating about his life had he decided to join the court instead of marrying QiYu. Hurried footsteps can be heard from behind, but LiQing is unaware. A figure clad in dark robes bumped into LiQing. The man was knocked off his feet and fell to the ground. Ranting that the other was not looking, the official threatened that if it were at the front of the palace, the other would be punished for being disrespectful. LiQing recognized them as the top 1 and 2 scholars of this year's imperial exam. LiQing promptly apologized even if it was not his fault. The officials finally recognized LiQing as the crown princess, and the official who was just complained admits that it was he who bumped him. LiQing excuses himself as they must be busy, but the other 2 insist to keep him wanting to gain favor or dig up more rumors. They intrusively ask why he looks so haggard and why he was alienating himself from them. They pretend to be nice, but deep down they mock him. They mock LiQing for having it easy and wants to rub their superiority as scholars and officials. LiQing defends himself by telling them that he is not only the crown princess, he is also the prince's study attendant. He scorns them for taking the time to mock him, just so they can feel their superiority, instead of hurrying to court. It appears that they have quickly forgotten the things they learned related to values. Angry at being seen through, the other 2 pretended to have the pure intention of catching up. The 3 stared at one another contemptuously. Don't you hate people who just want to flaunt that they're better than other people? The scholar raised his fan at LiQing, demanding that he tells him clearly what he said. A hand grabs his wrist, preventing him from striking LiQing. The hand belongs to a tall man with tanned skin. The man tells the scholar that the gates of the palace is about to close and that the scholars should hasten to get in. Based on the man's appearance, LiQing likens him to a barbarian and wonders who he is. He observes the stranger, although he may appear as a barbarian. His stance and the way he talks is that of nobility. The stout scholar quickly joined his hands together and paid his respect. He recognizes the man as Prince Lu Olan. The prince is surprised that the stout scholar would recognize him when he has not yet attended court. The scholar explained that he was supposed to meet him previously, but due to a prior commitment, he had to send someone else in his place. The prince does not seem impressed. He turns his attention at LiQing and asks who he is. Before the stout scholar can introduce LiQing as the prince's wife, LiQing interrupts him and introduces himself as the prince's attendant who helps him read books. Prince Lu Olan clarifies if he means that he is the prince's study companion. Wanting to embarrass LiQing, the scholar conspiratorially whispers to Prince Lu Olan's ear. Based on the scholar's expression, he's about to tell Prince Lu Olan that LiQing uses his body to serve QiYu. There have been accounts of masters having affairs with their study companions. Such scandalous relations have been romanticized in the history books. LiQing does not want to waste his breath on them. At most, they only nod at each other as a greeting whenever they pass each other. LiQing is about to excuse himself, but he hears Prince Lu Olan reprimand the scholar for spreading such rumors. The prince points out that only qualified people are allowed as the prince's study companion. He asks the scholar to elaborate on what he said. Embarrassed at being scolded, the scholar apologized to the prince, which surprised LiQing. The taller scholar decided that they must go into the palace to escort Prince Lu Olan into court. As he leaves, Prince Lu Olan turns to LiQing, asking him if he would join them. The other scholars mockingly pointed out that LiQing's position as the prince's scholar does not qualify him to go to court. Prince Lu Olan looks at LiQing empathically and told him that he should visit the doctor and have himself checked. LiQing thanked him for his concern, but reasoned that his cold will go away on its own. Prince Liu Olan clarified that he is not referring to his cold, but rather it is because LiQing's hand has been bleeding. Surprised by the blood coming out of the wound, LiQing quickly covered it with his other hand. The object that hit him is not at all sharp, and if it were, it would leave a scratch at most. LiQing does not understand why it's still bleeding and does not seem to be clotting. He observed that every time he sleeps with QiYu, he would bleed a lot. He used to think that it was due to QiYu's roughness, but he realizes now that his health may be compromised. LiQing quickly headed to the carriage waiting for him and ordered the coachman to take him to the hospital. LiQing met up with a man who expresses his disappointment in LiQing for not visiting him. He explains that he was about to storm into Qilin Mansion to find LiQing. This man is the imperial physician. The doctor calls LiQing by his moniker, Little Crying Bag. He asks why LiQing is so weak that he almost resembles a ghost. He remembers that LiQing is now the crown princess, and it is inappropriate for him to call him by such a childish name. He is not used to LiQing's new title. LiQing tells him that he should just call him by his name. The other teased that he would continue to call him Little Crying Bag. LiQing looks at him fondly, pointing out that his friend has become the youngest imperial physician and it would no longer be fitting to call him dummy. The doctor told him that it's all right as his grandfather and Bian Shisi would frequently scold him. His master would often say that if he ever killed a patient to never say that he learned from the old man. LiQing remembers where these nicknames came from. Little Crying Bag and Big Man were the names given to them by Jun QiYu when they were at the academy. It was this doctor, Qi Mao, who would bully LiQing when they were young. He was once beaten by Jun QiYu and his grandfather complained to the emperor. This resulted to Jun QiYu being punished. As they grew older, LiQing and Qi Mao grew close together and became friends. LiQing finds it ironic that his bully became his friend while his protector became his enemy. He realizes that this is just how the world works, and nothing stays the same. LiQing's attention returns to the matter at hand and offers to have his pulse checked. The doctor concludes that LiQing has a cold and his ailment may be due to overfatigue and mental stress. He recommends that LiQing take a rest and take the medicine he prescribes. He even offers to deliver the medicine personally to LiQing's home. LiQing thanks him, hesitantly. He tells Qi Mao that there is another thing that he wants to get checked. It was, in fact, his wound. LiQing shows him the back of his hand that is still bleeding. He explains that it was scratched by a fan and has been bleeding for 2 hours before it started to clot. Qi Mao observed the wound closely and asked if LiQing had other symptoms. He insists that he should know everything as blood diseases are hard to treat. LiQing admits that he bleeds whenever he sleeps with QiYu. The two sat in awkward silence for a while but proceeded to discuss LiQing's symptoms. Qi Mao tells LiQing that there are only a few blood diseases, but they are not to be underestimated. LiQing notices his hesitation. He tells Qi Mao that there's no need for him to lie. LiQing wants the truth of his illness. LiQing encourages his friend to tell him the truth. Hesitantly, the doctor tells him that he suffers from blood exhaustion. The disease is rare, that it was only mentioned once by his teacher. There is also very little known information about the disease. If the person is wounded, the wound will bleed non-stop and the person will be weakened until he dies of blood loss. A translator at Dame Novel suspects that the disease LiQing has is thrombocytopenia, which is a terminal illness during ancient times. It shocks LiQing to hear this. It's as if his life comes crashing down on him. LiQing becomes depressed, and Qi Mao tries to comfort him. LiQing asks if it can be treated. Qi Mao explains that there is no known cure. There may be some magical medicine out there, but he is unaware of it. Optimistically, Qi Mao tells LiQing that he should not worry as his master once told him that blood exhaustion goes away on its own. His tone of voice is obvious that he is only saying this to make LiQing better. Poor LiQing, he's still so young. LiQing closes his eyes in defeat. He realizes that there is only a 1 in a million chance for him to be cured. At this point, it is impossible. LiQing looks calm on the surface, but his hands are trembling. He's always thought that he has more time. Now that he knows that he has an incurable disease, he thinks of his parents and what will become of them if he dies. Qi Mao volunteers to get the formula right away for LiQing. He tells him that the Thai hospital has an array of magical herbs that could help. One of them could cure LiQing's blood exhaustion. He also remembers that his master Bian Shisi is renowned for curing all sorts of diseases. LiQing interrupts his friend's thoughts and asks that this matter remains a secret between them. The doctor clarifies if LiQing also wanted to keep it a secret from his father, General Song. LiQing does not want them to worry. If his illness is cured, then everything will be well. If it is not cured, then the burden will only be shared by LiQing and Qi Mao. There is no need to add more worried people to the mix. LiQing is sad that he is not able to return his parents' kindness when they treated him so well. The least he can do is to not make them worry. Qimao asks if they should also keep it a secret from Jun QiYu. LiQing does not know how QiYu will react. He fears that he may pity him and treat him better, or he may think that LiQing is just pretending to gain his sympathy. Qi, you would probably be glad to hear the news and will patiently wait until he dies so he can be free. LiQing tells the doctor that he will consider telling but would like more time to think it over. The doctor tells him to wait while he fetches the formula. He gives LiQing a temporary prescription while he tries to formulate a better cure for LiQing. Once the formula is available, he will send it to LiQing so that he can take the medicine every day. He also advises LiQing to not overwork himself and to take plenty of rest. LiQing reads the prescriptions and thanks Qimao. Qimao comments that LiQing always takes on the burden by himself. He tells LiQing that he does not need to be polite with him. He offers a 3-layered wooden box to LiQing. Qimao bought the sweet-scented osmanthus cake that morning and remembers that it is LiQing's favorite. He offers some for LiQing to take home with him. Although LiQing likes sweet, the sweet-scented osmanthus cakes were not his actual favorite. He only has fond memories of it, which is why he likes it. When they were children, Jun QiYu dragged him to skip class, and they got lost in the streets. At one point, QiYu made LiQing cry, and he fed LiQing with sweet-scented osmanthus cake to say sorry. Is that kid about to feed him with his mouth? Kid got moves. QiYu once told him that the sweetest part is when the osmanthus cake sticks to the roof of your mouth. Since then, LiQing had a fondness for these sweets. LiQing is glad that Qimao remembers his favorite treat and asked if they came from his favorite pastry shop, Lian Xiang Luo. Qimao told him that it indeed came from LiQing's favorite shop. As he hands over the box of treats to LiQing, the waterworks started to flow freely from Qimao's eyes. I thought LiQing was the little crying bag. Qimao leans his head on LiQing's shoulder and cried his heart out. LiQing asks him why he would cry when LiQing did not even shed a tear. Qimao tells LiQing that he does not cry often, but knowing that someone as kind as LiQing is burdened by such a disease, the gods are being unfair. When he finally got his bearings, the doctor wipes his tears and bid his farewell to LiQing. LiQing thanks him for his time, but was rooted where he stood when he heard rustling. Hidden behind the trees and rocks is Prince Lu Olan. LiQing approaches him and asks how a foreigner like him could roam the palace so freely. Prince Lu Olan explains that the emperor granted him a special pass to study the hospital's medical skills and treatment. Unnerved by the other man, LiQing asks the prince why he is lurking sneakily, spying on people. Prince Lu Olan denies the accusation and tells LiQing that he simply found a quiet place to read. He had no intention of listening to other people's conversation, not to spy on them. But he admits to hearing LiQing have an emotional conversation with Qimao. He suspects that LiQing and Qimao are lovers. LiQing quickly corrects his assumption and tells Prince Lu Olan that he and Qimao are just friends. He scathingly tells the prince that the Central Plains people are not as open as the barbarians. LiQing packs up his things while he tells the prince to mind his own business. LiQing proceeds to leave, which Prince Lu Olan took as an invitation to stride along LiQing. The prince tells him that the doctor of the Ministry of Rites told some salacious rumors about LiQing. However, he does not believe it. He grabs LiQing by the arm, causing for LiQing to turn to the prince. Prince Lu Olan's eyes are smoldering, whilst directed at LiQing. He tells LiQing that he wants to get to know him and wants the chance to know what kind of person LiQing is. It seems like we're about to have a love triangle soon. With QiYu's track record, this guy can't be any worse than that bully.